All right, this is part 3 of 7-4. And now we've got these two systems of equations. This system of equations, we have x minus 4y equals 4 and 2x minus 3y equals negative 3. And one way you can go about solving this is you can get out your t-graphs or t-charts, and you can just put some values for x in and then figure out what the values of y are and graph them. And in your book, what they have is they've drawn these two lines. And now in this case, when they draw, this is where the solution is. But when you take a look at it, it's close to negative 5, negative 2, but it's a little more than negative 5, a little more than negative 2. So, it's hard to tell. So what you would have to do in this situation is you actually do have to come back to the algebra. And so what we do is we take one of those equations and we solve it for one variable. This time we're solving it for x. So I've added 4y to both sides, and so x is equal to 4 plus 4y. Now, when I do that, I go to my other equation, the 2x minus 3y equals negative 3. And instead of writing x, I write 4 plus 4y. This gets me one equation, which is one unknown. And so 2 times 4 plus 4y minus 3y equals negative 3. And I apply my distributive property again, so I get 8 plus 8y minus 3y equals negative 3. Combine these like terms, 8y minus 3y, that's going to be 5y. So now I have 8 plus 5y equals negative 3. Then I subtract 8 from both sides, and I'll end up with 5y equals negative 11. And then I need to divide both sides by 5. And I end up with y is equal to negative 11 over 2. And that is pretty close to negative 2. It's just a little bit more. It's like negative 2 and 1/5. So then I take this number, come back to this guy, and I say, all right, x is equal to 4 plus 4y. So I'm going to rewrite it. X equals 4 plus 4 times my y value I just figured out. 4 times negative 11/5. And when I put that in and I crunch the numbers, I end up with x is equal to negative 24 over 5th. And that is actually really close to negative 5. It's actually just a little bit less. So the actual solution is negative 24 over 5, negative 11 over 5. So you can have solutions that are not whole numbers. You can have fractions. So be very careful about that. Now the second one, they're giving you a pirate map. And I've just recreated the points A, B, C, D here. And so you have a line AB and you have a line CD. And so if you take a look and you count them over, A is at negative 2, negative 1, C is negative 1, 4, B is 2, 5, and D is at 1, negative 4. Now, they talk about the slope, and they're assuming that you remember it. So just briefly, and we will talk more about this, and I can give you help if you are not remembering this from before. When you want to find the slope of a line, you need to take the difference in the y values, so y2 minus y1, and you put that over the difference of the x values. So for the AB line, this guy right here, I'm going to take, here's my y, there's 5, and I'm going to subtract from that negative 1, so 5 minus a negative 1. And then on the bottom, I put 2 minus a negative 2. So the slope for the AB line is going to be 3/2. Okay, because this becomes 6, this becomes 4. That simplifies to 3/2. For the CD line, right here, I'm going to take my 4, and I'm going to subtract from it a negative 4. And then I'm going to take my negative 1, and I'm going to subtract from it a 1. So I have a 4 minus negative 4, and I have a 1 minus a negative 1. And so this is going to give me a slope of negative 4, because this ends up being negative 8. This ends up being 2. Negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. Now you know they're going to cross because this slope is positive, this slope is negative. All right, one's going up along this way, one's going this way. So that tells you they're going to cross. Now if you're very, very careful, you can figure this point out. But what they want you to do is they want you to write this in the slope-intercept form and then solve it out algebraically. So I've reviewed with you what the slope is. So you want to make note of that. Write that on your paper because they didn't do it for you. And they want you to write it on the slope-intercept form. Now the slope-intercept form is this form, and there's other letters, and if you remember it, you'll remember that there's other letters, but for now I'm just going to say that this is y equals the slope times x plus wherever you cross the y-axis, okay? So for AB, y equals 3/2, that's my slope I just figured out here, plus 2, and AB, it crosses at the point 2, so you take a look in your book and you can see that. For CD, you have y equals negative 4x, negative 4 is the slope, negative 4x plus 0, 0 because that's where it crosses the xy axis. So then when we want to solve it algebraically, it becomes pretty simple. This guy is already in just terms of y equals negative 4x. So if I take this guy and I substitute him right here, and so instead of writing y, I just write negative 4x. I have negative 4x equals 3/2 x plus 2, and then I subtract 3/2 x from both sides, and then I get negative 4, 3, and 3/2 x equals 2. I divide both sides, and I get x is equal to negative 4/11. I take this value, I put it right back into my equation here, and y equals negative 4 times negative 4 over 11, or 16/11. So the solution for this pair, again, is a fraction. So this is another one that we wouldn't be able to just look at. And so you have negative 4/11, 16/11. Now I know that this is a lot of information. That's okay. You've got the video. You can revisit it. You can write it down. You can also talk to me. Come in and get help. Remember, before school every single day, as well as after school. Now, our homework for this last section in Chapter 7 is page 281, 282. And then if you want to go on to your chapter assessment, that will be on page 289, 290 is your chapter review for Chapter 7.